Too much media.
Much,
Fine.
tune in
Much
to
media.
Welcome to Too Much Media.
New term alert. Today I'm going to discuss something that I came up with, which is called phantom loneliness. Okay, like have you ever felt like you're mad lonely? Like you like miss being around people, or like you just haven't been around anyone for a while, and so you're like, you know, reminiscing on like good times you've had around friends or family and different things like that, and you're telling yourself in your head like, oh, like, you know, I wish people were around and stuff. But then what's weird about phantom loneliness is that you also are kind of the type of person who loves being alone. So it's like when you're alone, you do feel a little bit lonely where you're like, oh, I miss like all these special moments that I've had with other people and these certain people's personality and stuff. But it's not that you're like so lonely to the point where you're like, when you're by yourself, you dread it, or like when you're anytime that you expect to be alone, you don't want to. You actually do want to. You actually enjoy the loneliness. While you feel lonely, you're enjoying the act of being lonely in a weird way. It's like maybe it's not that even you're lonely, it's more that you're just, I don't know what to call it, but that's why I'm calling it phantom loneliness. Because when you feel this way, like later on, you finally get an opportunity to be around people, you finally are around a bunch of people, and you know what you want more than anything is to be alone. So it makes you feel, the thing about phantom loneliness is it makes you feel a bit insane, because you know while you're alone that you would hate if people were around you in this moment, but while you're alone, you feel like you wish people were there. So it's like this constant state of wishing people were around, but knowing that if they were around, you'd wish to be alone. Because then when you're around people, all you're thinking about is, I can't wait to get home, or I can't wait to be alone so I can really, you know, decipher my own thoughts and be in my own silence. I think it's like maybe you even just prefer the memory of people than the act of them actually being around you. I don't know what it is. It's very weird. It's like, you just, that's why I call it phantom loneliness, because it's just like this ghost-like state of loneliness. Like, it's like, because I'm someone, for example, who thrives by themselves. Like, I work the best alone. I'm my best self when I am alone. Okay, let me not say my best self, because I'm a great person with people around, but I'm good, like, by myself. Like, I'm never the person who's, like, worried, like, oh my God, but if I do this, they'll never want to hang out with me again. I'm the person who is like, I hope they don't want to hang out with me again if I do this. Because if I can't do what I want to do in order to hang out with this person, I don't want them around me. Like, I want them as far away as possible. And I think I'm just used to being alone from, like, only childhoodness. Like, I'm good at it. Like, I'm never bored in my own head. Like, my own head entertains me so much that if I'm alone, like, I struggle to feel bored. So it's like, it's interesting feeling phantom loneliness, because it's not even boredom that gets you to feel that way. It's not even like, oh, I'm bored, so I wish people were around. It's more like, oh, this is so interesting, I wish someone was here to hear my perspective. Or this is so, I'm having such a good time alone, I wish someone knew how much fun I have by myself. I think it's more like that, yeah. I think it's like, what do they call that thing? FOMO? It's like FOMO, but like for other people. Like I'm experiencing extended FOMO. Like instead of having FOMO, fear of missing out, where I'm fearing of missing out what other people are up to, I'm scared they're missing what I'm up to. I'm like, dang, I'm lit. Like everyone should know. But you know what you end up finding out? When you try to let people in on like your experiences. Okay, let me not say this is what you end up finding out. Like this is the only result you can find when you when this happens, but it's just one of the results I have found in my experience, is that like when you do start telling people all the stuff you do alone, or like you want them to experience all the interesting thought-provoking things you say and do and think about and stuff, is that like, for one, they never appreciate it the way you do. So then that brings you back to like the feeling of like feeling a little crazy, because it's like, dang, I thought I wanted people around, but now they're here and they don't appreciate the stuff I appreciate to the level I do. So now I want them gone. And then another thing you end up realizing too is like, not everybody uses the information that you enjoy for like good reasons, like for the reasons you think they should be used, you know? So sometimes you're also like helping somebody hurt you in the future, because you let them in on all this information and all these ways that you do things and all your little secrets and all your little whatever it is you're up to. And then that same information that you were so excited to share ends up being used against you. So that's also another thing where it's like, damn, I should have just been lonely. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I don't know if other creative people go through that that feeling of phantom loneliness. I do find lately, like ever since I've been able to like pinpoint what that feeling is, and now I have like that name for it, of phantom loneliness, I find that creatively, like it's actually quite helpful, because now that like I have pinpointed it, like when I do recognize it, I kind of utilize it to get things done. So it's like, okay, you feel a little sense of phantom loneliness, like, you know, make something, you know, sometimes like if I make something in those moments, it makes me feel less lonely, because it's like now I have proof of that moment existing. So it's like kind of like, okay, like I wasn't alone in that moment, because like the spirit or like the energy of what was going on in that moment has been captured now. So it's like that energy was with me at that moment, not a person. You see what I'm trying to say? Because most of the time when we want people around us, it is for their energy, it is for their like their presence, their essence, you know, they add something to your life. They you know, have the same sense of humor as you. So maybe their energy is funniness. Like I know like certain friends of mine that I have, one of my favorite things about them is their humor. Like they're just funny as hell. Like I just know, oh yeah, I can't wait to see this person because I'm gonna crack up. Or maybe their energy is like really organized. Like I have friends where it's like I love their level of organization. So it's like I know that when I'm with them, everything's gonna go exactly as planned. Things are gonna be on point, because this person never plays about things being organized, you know? It's like you go out with them, they're gonna know what time you need to be there, they're gonna know like where to go, they're gonna know, like they're just gonna know every little detail that you didn't even think of. Like that could be another energy, you know? But anyway, just to say, like different people breathe like different energies that you enjoy when you're around them, and also you also bring out different energies from people, because like for example what I just said, like so maybe you have that one person who's like mad organized or something. It's like maybe they also have a friend who's very organized like themselves, and so whenever they're around that friend, they're actually even less organized than that friend, so they can kind of let go of that part of themselves and let the other friend lead in the organization level. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, for example, I don't really think of myself as a funny person. Like I don't think I'm that funny, but I know like my sense of humor is like top tier, you know? But depending, but other people sometimes think of me as a funny person. They're like, oh my god, like you're funny or whatever, you know. But I don't really think of myself as funny. But there's certain people that I meet who are literally top tier comedians, like to the point where it's like it's actually scary. And I feel like when I'm around people who are not that funny, I can really let the sense of humor fly. But when I'm with people who I genuinely think are like the funniest people I've ever met, I try to tone down my humor a little bit because I'm more trying to enjoy their humor because I don't always get to experience it. So I'm just like, so it's like whereas one person might think of me as really extremely funny, that person might think that I'm not that funny, and they're the ones who's always like having to come up with the funniness and the humor and things like that. So it's like different people also bring out different energies in you, you know? And so that's usually when you're experiencing phantom loneliness, what you're actually experiencing. You're experiencing a want for energy. You need something moving around you and some sort of like proof of concepts, like not proof of concept, but proof of spirit. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now, but it's like, yeah, that's usually more of what you're looking for than the actual person themselves. I mean, it could be the person themselves, but I do feel like when it's phantom loneliness, because you're the type of person that actually does enjoy being alone, it's not like loneliness where you're actually missing a person. It's loneliness where you're missing energy or spirit, you know? And that's why I'm trying to say that, you know, in that moment when you're missing those things, if you make something, it's like kind of in a way gets rid of the phantom loneliness because then you get that energy or that spirit. So like, let's say in that moment, you're like missing out on like a funny spirit. You could like make something that makes you smile or makes you laugh. If you're feeling like you miss like that, you know, maybe you have like that one friend who like always kind of has deep thoughts with you and like, you know, really dives into topics with you and lets you like, you know, be a deep thinker, then you can make something that you've always thought about deeply but like haven't had a way to express it. So now you find some way to express it. You know what I'm just saying? Like I'm just saying that like use phantom loneliness to your advantage, because a lot of times when you think you miss people or you're lonely, you think you're lonely, you don't miss people, man. You do not want them around you. As soon as they're around, you're telling yourself, damn, I can't wait to be alone. So like the next time you think you're feeling lonely, check yourself. Make sure, because I feel like a lot of people make bad mistakes and like keep people in their lives who don't need to be in their lives for longer than they need to be in their lives because of phantom loneliness, because they think that this person is adding some sort of energy to them, or that they think that when they're alone, they're not enjoying being alone. It's like you aren't enjoying being alone because you're not making aloneness enjoyable. Being alone can be horrible, can honestly be so sad and depressing and really downtrodden, but it also could be lit. Like it could be very fun. It can be very freeing. Like I feel like I only have my best thoughts when I'm alone. I think I have my best like, what else do I have when I'm alone? Like I feel like I have my truest form of expression when I'm alone too. It's like certain things that you're comfortable doing when you're by yourself, you obviously for social norm purposes don't do in front of other people. So it's like you don't really get to the in-depth parts of your brain until you're alone, because it's also like they interrupt your thoughts. Like I know like when I'm with people, it's like sometimes they'll like read my facial expressions wrong and think that I'm like either judging the situation that's around us or like I'm thinking about something negatively, but my thoughts are actually nowhere near what's actually going on around me. And so they'll be like, oh, why are you looking like that? And I'm not even realizing what my face looks like. And now I have to, once my face changes, my thoughts change. And then therefore it's like, oh, so like my bad. Like I wasn't even realizing I was making a face. But while I was making that face, I was deep in thought about something. And so now because of that interruption, I also had to interrupt my flow of thought and stuff. So, you know, that's like stuff people do. Like it's like you're in conversation, they say one small thing and you're off to a whole nother thought in your head. And you're not even really, you're listening to them, but it's like half. And so, yeah, you have to be interrupted constantly when you're around people. You can't even fully finish thinking about stuff. Sometimes when I'm overstimulated in my head, like I have to leave because I need to think and I can't think straight around people. So it's like, you know, phantom loneliness really gets to me sometimes because I just enjoy being alone so much that I kind of revolve my life around increasing alone time. And then when I am alone all the time and constantly, I realize this can't be healthy to be alone this often. But then it's like, once I'm like, okay, you're alone too much, go spend time with people and be a part of like things and like, you know, socialize. Then once I do socialize, after a short while, I'm just like, oh my God, why did I think that I wanted to do this? So it's just like this constant cycle of like throwing in and out of like whether or not you're lonely. I think that now, because I've noticed that and I use my alone time very resourcefully, like I make sure to like really emphasize the times that I'm alone and make it very exciting for myself, or like do things that I'm supposed to get done by myself. Like I'll revolve my alone time around my socializing time. So that way I know like, okay, you have to socialize this time, this time, this time. Therefore, do everything you want to do during your alone time, you know, like express yourself very freely, like enjoy your alone time to its fullest capacity to decrease phantom loneliness. Like I feel like if you really, really, really make sure that your alone time is fully utilized, it becomes less of a problem for you. And it kind of goes away. You enjoy that lonely time. And also you're able to enjoy your socializing time more too, I feel like, just because then you're able to look forward to being alone, but you're also able to look forward to socializing when you're alone, because you know that like those moments that you're enjoying memories with friends or family or whoever it is can inspire moments of lonely when you're alone. Because then when you experience that phantom loneliness when you're alone, you can think to yourself, okay, I'm feeling lonely. Like what type of energy is making me feel lonely? Like what type of energy am I missing right now that's making me feel lonely? It's like, oh man, I wish I was like at a party with some people or something, or I wish I was with, you know, one of your best friends or whatever, or I wish I was, you know, with my family doing whatever. And then once you can notice, okay, your loneliness is being taken from wanting this type of energy around you right now. You know exactly what to do with the rest of your time. It's like, okay, this is the energy that I'm looking for right now. Let's see, what can I create out of this? What can I show myself that I have that energy even when I'm alone? Like that energy exists regardless of other people's presence. How do you utilize that energy to put into your creative endeavors, whatever that is to you? So, you know, let's discuss it in a film context. It's like, okay, like you miss that, you know, party energy. Like, you know, why don't you create a plot structure that is leading up to a party. Like, what does a person do before a party? Now make a film on that, you know, or what, like, you know, because that kind of, I kind of like that idea, because it's also like, that kind of takes in the energy of like your current state of feeling phantom loneliness, and it takes that structure, that energy of like wanting to go to a party, and combines them, because the person is still alone, but they're getting ready for a party. So it's like, ooh, this is what happens leading up to you getting that energy that you're saying you want, but now, right now, you're in a current state of not having that energy, so you still have the like creative like integrity of what's going on right now, and not like a fake, you know, energy that doesn't technically exist in this moment. That's very interesting. You know, but yeah, that's just another example of like how you can use moments of like phantom loneliness to your advantage. You know, I feel like that's the best part about being creative with stuff that you're doing, is that nothing in life that happens to you is ever really bad, because you can always utilize any energy state, negative or positive, to your advantage. You get to transmute anything that happens to you to your fullest and deepest advantage. So it's like, you need to always kind of be thinking in that state, even when you're kind of down and out. You have to kind of be thinking like, yes, I'm down and out. That means I can learn something from this down and out moment to feed into my thoughts later when I'm happy. Or like when you're happy, you can be like, oh wow, yes, I'm experiencing such a good level of happiness. I can use this moment to pull me out of any a future time where I'm not feeling as happy as this, you know? So it's like, you need to make sure that like you're always utilizing that, like, you know, adaptability that being creative has for you. It's like, it's very important to recognize things around you and be aware of like different emotional states and different conscious states that you can do different things with. And I think lately, like, not lately, but this was a while back that I realized phantom loneliness was a thing, because I was at the crib and I was like, damn, I feel lonely. And like, the thing is, I'm sitting here and I'm willfully sitting in my loneliness, because I don't have to be lonely if I don't want to. Like, I really could hit people up. I really could be more social. I really could make more of an effort to be around people more often, but I don't. And when I'm in those moments of feeling lonely, it's like, I'll tell myself like, dang, I feel lonely right now, and I could like try to be around someone, or like try to hit someone up to kind of express my loneliness and not feel it anymore. But it's like, how will I know how to navigate this moment in the future when it happens to me again, if every single time I'm lonely, I like run and start chasing other people, or vice versa? Like, if I don't know how to like deal with that by myself, there's gonna be a moment where like I can't have that, and I'm gonna drive myself crazy in that moment, you know? And also, it's kind of like, I don't like to use people in that way. Like, I don't like to only hit people up or like be around people because I have this like sense of energy where I want someone around me. So it's like, oh, you're good enough, guess I'll hang out with you. It's like, no, like, I want to already actively be thinking about you and just want to hang out with you, rather than be sitting around lonely and then use you as my backup option. Because I feel like after a while, that's how I will kind of start to resent someone, or like not want to be around someone, because I'm utilizing them to feed into my own insecurities, and like, you know, I don't know, I feel like it's a very just succubant way to think, and like it never ends up going well, because the minute that person's not useful to you, then you're starting to hit them up, let's do less for you, and then that person just feels bad about themselves, and you feel a little bit selfish, because you know you're using someone's energy and state of being for selfish reasons, you know? Like, I'd rather be in a pure state when I'm hanging out with people, or like when I'm around people socially. Like, I'd rather just be in a purely like pre-planned state, or like good state of mind to be around them, not like trying to feed into my own needs to get from them in order. But I mean, there's always a sense of that when you're hanging out with people anyway. Like, no matter what, when you're around someone, there's always that in the background. In some layer of your interaction, there's like a little bit of like, what does this person kind of feed into me in that like little selfish way that I'm talking about? So it's like, you can't really avoid that, but I try to avoid it as in like leaning on it, like using it as my crutch, just because, for one, I think, but it goes back to like what I'm saying, like why this loneliness is quite phantom. It's because it's like, I don't want to do it also because I know it's fake. Like, I do enjoy being alone. Why is the universe trying to bring around the energy of loneliness to me when I know I'm not alone? Like, I'm not a person who like even likes being around people too much. Like, I do like being around people, but I like being very selective with the people I'm around. Like, I don't like being around just anybody. Like, I like being around people who, I don't know, are people that I like being around. I don't want to like get too specific, but like, you know, like, I'm picky. Like, I don't like everyone's energy. Like, I'm not always into the things people talk about, or the places people go, or like the things they like to do while they're at those places. Like, I'm not into everybody's way of doing things. If anything, like, I'm really, really super picky about how everything's done, which is why I like loneliness so much. Like, which is why I like being alone, because then everything can be my way at all times, and I don't have to discuss anything of how things are gonna go with anyone else. And I also feel like, I don't know if other creative people notice this, but I feel like things just go smoother for me when I'm alone. Like, I just feel like, you know, problems that like come up when people are around don't come up for me when I'm alone. Like, when I'm alone, most times everything kind of goes without a hitch. It's like boom, boom, boom. Like, wow, oh my god, I can't believe everything just worked out so perfectly. But then as soon as someone's around, it's like their energy or their state of mind or their whatever stuff that they got going on ends up like compounding onto mine, and then now things aren't going as smoothly for me as they usually do. So that's also another reason I know I do enjoy being alone, but it's like this energy state that like comes and tries to like convince me that I don't. And then as soon as I'm around people, I realize, yeah, no, that was fake. Like, I didn't enjoy being around those people. Like, I do want to be alone. And it's like, so that's why also I don't like to like just feed into it, because it's just like, I know for sure the minute I'm around people, I'm gonna regret it. Like, I'm gonna feel like this was all a scam and someone has bamboozled me. So it's just like important for me that when I'm alone, that I recognize that feeling, because the universe has brought it to me for a reason, but also I realize how to like change that energy into something that feeds back into me. Because I do notice that like long periods of time of me feeling lonely and me like focusing on myself and being by myself, it ends up being useful for me when I am around people, because I have more patience for them, and I have more like willingness to like be happy around them, you know, instead of like this fake happiness that sometimes you feel when you're around people, where like I feel like that feeling is even worse when you're surrounded by people but you still feel lonely. Because that's why I don't end up ever hitting people up when I feel this phantom loneliness, because it's like in that moment I think I want someone around me, but I feel even worse in the times where I succumb to the feeling and try to get people around me, and then when I'm around them I still feel lonely. Like, I feel crazy when that happens to me, because it's like, damn, I'm around people finally, but I still feel lonely. If anything, that's kind of sadder to me. Like, being alone and feeling lonely, at least it correlates. At least your brain can track why you feel lonely. Well, you're alone, but being around people and feeling lonely, you like kind of end up becoming kind of neurotic, because it feels crazy that you have people in your life and you're around people, but you're lonely. Like, that's actually even a worse feeling to me than being alone and feeling lonely, rather than being around people and then still feeling lonely. Like, oh fuck, like at this point, man, just cancel everything. Like, I don't know. So like in those moments, I'm like, no, I must be alone because I know like if I get around people and I still feel lonely, that's gonna make me feel worse. Like you might as well figure out in this aloneness what exactly you're feeling and why you're feeling it, rather than trying to use people to get rid of it or distract you from it and then like feel a different type of worse, you know? I feel like stuff like that ends up leading to like a lot of vices that people have, such as alcoholism. It just becomes really bad, especially in my age bracket. A lot of the times, the things we like to do is more like party based and stuff. So it's just like that's an easy route to those type of vices. Which honestly, as a creative, if that's what has ended up happening to you, you can also utilize. But it's just like for me personally, that's not really the route I think I'm on right now. So it's just like I'm cool off that. But yeah, nah, phantom loneliness is a real thing. I feel. I don't know if anyone else has experienced it or if maybe like you know, there's another way to utilize phantom loneliness. But yeah, I recognized that in myself recently. I was like, dang, why do I feel lonely, but like still want to be alone? Like, that's weird. Like, I feel lonely, but the last thing I want right now is anyone in my face. And I feel lonely and I know exactly who I could call or text or be around, but like, I won't do it. It's just interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. I don't know. I'm alone right now, but I don't feel lonely. I feel really good, actually. I feel quite happy to be by myself. And you know what? That's the thing about phantom loneliness that's weird because like 90% of the time when you're alone, you feel so happy to be alone. You're like, ooh, what am I going to do by myself and think of right now? But then like, there'd be that 10% of time where you're just like, damn, why? I think it also has to do with how long of periods you're spending alone too. It's like if you're just spending a day or two alone, it's like, okay, that was refreshing. But if you're spending like weeks or months at a time alone, that's when it becomes depressing a bit. So I think it also has to do with like, you know, enjoy aloneness and like don't always try to use other people to feed into your feelings of loneliness. But it's like don't be alone for too long as well. Make sure you know how to balance out being alone versus being with people. But stuff like that also makes me scared for marriage. Like I've asked a lot of married people before, like, how do you handle now that you're married? Someone is always in your space. Like someone is like, you know, you share a bed, you share a bathroom, you share a home, you share maybe even cars, you share everything with this other person. And you know, every single day when you get home, this person is going to be there. There's not a day that goes by where you come home and you're alone. And I find that to be insane to me, which is a huge, huge sign that I'm not ready for marriage. But I'm just like, I ask married people that a lot. Like, how do you get used to that? Like from going from being alone and like, you know, living alone maybe. I don't know if it depends on the married person's circumstance, but like, you know, most people like they'll live by themselves and then they find someone to be with and then they get married and then they start living with someone. So it's like, how do you go from being able to have that much space? And even if you weren't living alone before, it's like if the person who you're living with more likely than not is not in a romantic relationship with you in the way I'm discussing it. So it's like you still have personal space that they're not allowed to kind of be into. Like you're not going to share a literal room with them or like you might share a bathroom with them at most, but like you're not always going to have them in your space. You have the space to be alone. And you don't have to like, you know, interact with them even in moments when you don't want to. But when you're in a marriage, it's kind of like you can't just tell your significant other like, hey, get away from me, or like, hey, don't talk to me for the next couple of days, or like, you could, but I don't know if that marriage is gonna last, you know? So I just always am wondering, like, when I speak to married people, like, how do you get in that state of mind where you're constantly okay with someone always being around? Because that sounds like it would drive me crazy. I can't imagine it. Like, I don't know, like, when I'm tired after a long day of work or school or whatever it is I'm doing that day, errands, socializing, whatever, the best thing about coming home is being alone. It's like you get to your, it's like you can take a deep, deep breath, you know? And I'm like, damn, imagine I'm finally taking a deep breath and you next to me taking deep breaths too. Why? Why are you taking deep breaths? I just can't understand it. Go somewhere. I'm just kidding. But kids also make me think of that too. I'm like, oh dang, like I can't imagine coming home after a long day of work and now people are in my face asking me for food and things and help and all types of stuff. I'm like, golly, when does it end? But back to my point about the married people, it's like from what I've taken from married people I have spoken to, they say to me that you know, when you're with the right person or you're really with that person that you love, like it doesn't feel like that to you. You're actually happy for them to be in your space. You enjoy sharing things with them. You enjoy like you two being alone. So I think it's more like you have to find that person that when you're with them, it does feel like you're alone. Maybe, I don't know. Like you feel alone within their company. Like your two company together feels like it's one person almost. So it's like even when they're around, it doesn't feel like someone came around. It feels like an extension of you came around. So you still feel like you're alone in a way, but you're not alone. So it's like you get to have a presence of energy with still feeling alone. I don't know. Maybe that's more what they mean when they say like you don't feel that way when you're with your married person. Because I'm like, golly, I don't know. I guess I'll report back once I'm married.